Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another exciting meeting at ITU Toastmasters. Toastmasters, where leaders are made. And who is a leader? And how do you gain being a leader? Let's understand more about two great people in the room today. Our Toastmaster Namitha and keynote speaker DTM Susan. Talking about Namitha, always she brings the energy to the meeting and wherever she is, the talkative and also positive, the girl in the room. Toastmaster Namitha, the lecture is yours.
Thank you so much, Raghuji. Now, I see few guests here. So before I start, can I just ask them to introduce themselves? So Hemant, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Hemant Kumar. I am from Visakhapatnam. I joined this meeting first time, and I work as software engineer with entity data.
Okay, thank you. And Piyush, you are new to the club, so can you give your brief introduction?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Piyush. I live in Bay Area, but currently I'm in India. I am a product manager at PayPal, and I've been working with PayPal for almost 14 years, and I've been part of the Toastmasters club there. They have the meeting around noon time, which is kind of super busy time for me. I have like tons of other meetings, so I've been missing meetings there. But luckily, I found this group where you have meetings which is kind of end of day in PST, and also something that works for IST. So looking forward to speaking in this forum. And nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Piyush. Toastmaster Bharat, do you want to introduce yourself? You're on mute.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies for this short struggling on the mouse, but good morning from Hong Kong, District 89. I am member of two clubs, Founders Toastmasters and Tung Chung Toastmasters. Just completed my DTM, and a lot of credit goes to Raghu, who has been inspiration, support, and guiding me in my journey. Thank you, everyone. I love to be in this club, and special thanks and good morning to my dear Diana. Back to you.
So we are in Toastmasters. The motto is to improve and learn upon our communication relationship skills and leadership skills. How to do that? Well, a club is as good as its club member gets along, especially the officers. According to me, a good leader is someone who is open-minded and ready to accept feedback and is calm and composed for the majority of time. We all get stressed, we all get pressurized, but if we do not show a good face to our own club members, it won't give them confidence in us and confidence in themselves as well. So I can talk about this topic for hours together. But before that, let me call upon the role players for today. So can I call upon the timer to introduce their role to the members here?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster Namitha. In Toastmasters, one of our goals is to learn to speak within the time allowed. My job as a timer is to track the time of each of the assigned speaking roles and to signal to the speakers how much time they have left. Today's prepared speech would be 20 to 25 minutes. I would change my background screen to green color at 23rd minute, and it would be yellow at 24th minute and red at 25th minute. The speech evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes, and the table topic responses are also 1 to 2 minutes.
Oh, a small interruption. You may ask DTM Susan about the timings, how she wants the green, yellow, and red for her speech.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that.
She's fine with what you said. That's fine. I'm good.
Okay, okay,
Thank
cool.
you.
Right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, sorry. Thank you so much. Can I call upon the R counter?
Good morning and good evening, everyone. My name is Viveka Tiwari, and I am our counter for the day. As an our counter, my role is to note down all the overused words and filler sounds used by all the speakers during the meeting. And yeah, that is what I'm going to do. Words like and, overuse of words like and, but, so, filler sounds like So that's what I'm going to do. And I shall be presenting my report at the end of the meeting. Thank you. Back to you, Namitha.
Thank you so much. Now, let me call upon the grammarian and who will give the word of the day as well.
Yes, good morning, good evening, everybody. My name is Grace. I will be the grammarian for the day. It is my responsibility to listen to all the speakers today, to their language usage. I will take note of any improper language as well as outstanding words, quotes, and saying. As for the word of the day, it's dauntless, which means fearless, bold, or intrepid. An example of this word is that when riding on a roller coaster, children are more dauntless than adults. Each speaker is encouraged to use the word of the day, and I will give this report towards the end. I will also share the word of the day in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That would be an interesting word to use in our role plays. Without further ado, let me call upon the evaluator of our first speaker, a speaker with more than 2 decades of experience in Toastmasters and 2 DTMs. Well, I'm very sure she has a lot to impart. So, Kalpana, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster of the day. Today, Toastmaster Suzanne is going to attempt her project from her Persuasive Influence Pathway Level 5. The purpose of this project is to learn about and practice facilitating a question and answer session. Speech title is Lead to Speak. Thank you. Over to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Toastmaster Susan, over to you.
Thank you so very much, Madam Namitha. We have a wonderful opportunity in Toastmasters to learn about leadership. And leadership is not just about making ourselves more grand and important, but it's about inspiring others to greatness. I'm going to share a screen to go over the Toastmasters information about our leadership. Are you able to see my slideshow?
Yes.
Toastmasters Club officers, I'm going to discuss today the responsibilities and then some of the skills that we learn and gain by holding those various roles. A little tidbit about myself. I have held every role multiple times. This past year, I have been president in 4 of the clubs I am a member of. I am currently a member in 7 clubs, but I was president in 4 throughout this last calendar year. So I'm going to share with you some of the wisdom and the benefits that I've gained throughout my experience in my 27 years as Toastmaster. There are 7 different officers' roles. If you haven't heard about them, they are the president, the vice president of education, vice president of membership, the vice president of public relations, secretary, treasurer, and sergeant at arms. Now, what do they all mean? They all have specific roles, but they must work together as a cohesive team for the benefit of the club members. So I'm going to go through them one by one. First off, as a president, you set the tone for the club. I like to say you're the CEO or the host, and you oversee and facilitate not only the club meetings, but executive team meetings where we get to brainstorm with the other leaders so that we can provide helpful and supportive leadership for all the club's activities. And the sky is the limit of the things that you can do to make this enjoyable. It is necessary to learn how to motivate, sometimes make peace, and facilitate throughout. We have to strive to show our respect for our members, even if we don't agree with them, and we provide leadership for all of our members and our guests. We have to stay current on those things that are happening outside of the club, what we call the area, the division, and the district. And we bring in the various dates of things that are up and coming, reminders. They can be during the meeting, they can be emails to your membership, but I like to do both visually. It helps in a PowerPoint slide if I have the dates and the flyers included. They remember that more. And then the president is a backup to the Pathways Basecamp manager. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when I talk about the primary, who's the vice president of education. Now, the skills that you learn being the president are team building and delegating. You don't need to do it all yourself. Delegate others, empower them, lead that small group, keep it positive. The skills include organizational and problem solving and critical thinking, and sometimes being able to organize the entire community to do a specific task or an event that's coming up. We're really good in president's role to learn networking and relationship building throughout any guest that comes through the door and those that come in. And we said keeping the peace, that's conflict management, and the ability to give tactful and constructive feedback. Now, this is very helpful also in the workplace. As a manager, I found my Toastmasters training very helpful to enable me to give that feedback to my employees in a positive feedback and constructive manner. And one other role that sometimes is overlooked is the succession planning. We must know how to look towards others, bring them in so that they can feel fulfilled for that role. We have to make sure we understand the procedures so that we can follow them and make sure we're in compliance with Toastmasters International. Now, as Vice President of Education, that person will set the club meeting agendas and assign the meeting roles, perhaps reach out for keynote speakers, manage the club schedule and plan the meetings with the executive committee, of course, and manage the members' progress in Pathways. There's also the Pathways learning experience that you need to be an expert because you are the primary Basecamp manager. That means you know where your speakers are in their journey. You may send out surveys to ask what their goals are and how you can set them along the path to those goals. Another duty is to help plan the speech contests if your club participates in those, and manage the mentor program. That is one of the most favorite things because you team people up with each other based on needs and skill sets. Now, the skills that are learned are included in strategic planning and being able to evaluate your members' performance and determine their strengths and weaknesses. If somebody is not at all organized, team them up and assign the mentor to be someone who is very organized. You would need to also be organized in problem solving and also successful mentoring techniques. Sometimes a mentor can be lifelong, and sometimes it doesn't work out. You need to be flexible enough to be able to change from one mentor to another. No hard feelings. Either the person isn't available or it's just not a good mix. If they're not connecting and the member is not growing, then you need to have the courage to stand forward and say, let's make a change. Approach each of them individually and say, no hard feelings, but we're going to change your assignments. And that requires some critical thinking on our parts. And we have to be able to motivate others to achieve their goals. In Toastmasters, we have the Distinguished Club program, and we get various points for completing our educational goals. Well, if we're not focused on those and not paying attention to them, we are not going to be able to achieve them. I like to look at someone who says, hi, you've gotten 2 out of the 3 speeches done. Let's get you on the schedule for that 3rd speech so you can finish your level 2. That's the kind of encouragement that makes the club thrive. Also, succession planning. Pick the person who will take the job after you, perhaps shadow them for a while for the few weeks before transition, and make sure that you're available to them after the transition so that you can help out. And of course, the standard compliance with standard procedures. Now, the Vice President of Membership responsibilities. You might initiate the contact with the guests, make them feel welcome, make sure they introduce themselves in the meeting, and follow up after the meeting to make sure that they had a good time and they felt warmly welcomed. Maybe hospitality and guest information to their guests. Some clubs will create a little packet of information about our club and how to reach the various officers and what questions they may have about Toastmasters in general or this club specifically. And if you do get communications from your members or guests, make sure you follow up with them on a timely fashion. Toastmasters International is wonderful at sending people our way who've inquired about joining clubs. But there are other ways as well. Locally in the United States, we use something called Meetup, and we might use LinkedIn, and we might use any other social media that they may reach out to us. Try to get back to them within a day or 2, because if not, you may lose them. Give them information on how to come to the meeting, join them, and make sure you acknowledge their visit. I like to send back a note that says, thank you for visiting. Is there any other information you'd like? Here's a few things I'll share. And there's also the opportunities to conduct membership building programs. Toastmasters does 3 of them throughout the year. One is at the beginning of the year, the Smedley, August and September, that's before renewal. And another one that's in February, March, which is the Talk Up Toastmasters. And another one that's May and June called the Beat the Clock. Before year end, get those extra members in and do it. But it's not just your job. It's every member of the club's job to do this. You will help promote the club and recruit new members, but every member will participate and help do this job. It's not a one-person job for sure. And then the skills that you learn, I'm going to not go through all of them because they're going to start sounding a lot familiar. The strategic planning, the successful mentoring techniques is different. And then having to make sure that you know how to motivate others, because not everybody motivates the same way. Some are self-motivating, some need a little bit of encouragement, either from their coach or the club members. Next, we have the Vice President of Public Relations, and I kind of hinted at that because you'll work very handily with the Vice President of Membership. You get the word out. You promote the club. There's Facebook ads. I've seen so many for this club, and that's what attracted me in the beginning for something about evaluations, which I love, and being able to see something that sparks your interest. And I just kind of stuck around. So get the word out, the social media, the websites, anything that you have. There are the opportunities to write news releases, sometimes through your district, and sometimes just locally in the papers or in the schools that you may have. And sometimes the places of business that you work at. A flyer, ask permission to put it up. Some will allow it, some will not. But if there's a bulletin board and you have the opportunity, share that message, get it out, and make sure that your other members actively participate on those various public sources, because if you get the word out, you get the brand out. How many of you, and I'll just ask a quick question, how many of you, when you first heard of Toastmasters, asked the question, what's Toastmasters? Show of hands, anybody hear that? Yeah, I had no idea what it was when I was brought to a membership. Isn't it something that's the best kept secret? I wish everybody could know about it and everybody could join. You need to remain current with all the correspondence that come out from Toastmasters International, the magazines. Perhaps your district puts out a newsletter or a magazine. Please make sure you get your information about your club in those various actions. The skills that you learn, marketing and promotion, that's different. Social and public media, a lot of people really are into that these days, especially those younger than I. You're into social media, maximize it, use it for the best benefit of your club. You can also learn how to write press releases, which might help you in your business dealings later on, if in fact you learn the responsibilities. You'll also be involved in networking, relationship building, critical thinking, and also collaboration. Because again, this is not a one-person job. All of the members of the club will go out there and comment on your Facebook page or your Meetup page or your LinkedIn page. Everybody participating gets the word out and expands it exponentially. Now, secretary. It sounds like you just take the meetings at the club and the executive committee meetings, but it's not, because you will also maintain the club's records and files, keeping track of the club roster to know who's a member and who's not, and perhaps give a little hint to the person who's introducing guests. This person's a guest, they're not on our roster. Make sure we follow up with them. Perhaps they'll become a club member. And also understanding the rules, updating the club and officer list at Toastmasters International. And the secretary has one special rule of learning basic parliamentary procedures. So when you conduct your election, you will have the opportunity to enable an orderly fashion election by using the parliamentary procedures, making motions, having them seconded, having them voted upon. That's a wonderful skill that translates nicely to other places as well and other organizations. Also stay current on everything that's going on and sometimes whisper in the ear of the person who's the Toastmaster of the day that there's some information to share, and a backup Pathways Basecamp manager. Tracking the members' roles, their progress, and if the Vice President of Education does actually complete an educational award, they can't do it for themselves. So they need either the secretary or the president to step up to be the backup. And if they're not available on vacation or on business travel, this enables the member not to have to wait for something to be approved and acknowledge that they've completed. The secretary, of course, is going to learn record maintenance, meeting organization, and documenting the decisions that are made. And it's actually a very fun job to do. In one of my clubs, someone designed a jot form to keep it simple, listing the list of all the members for attendance, keeping track of the various roles that are held, and it just has made life so much easier. You can do it any way you want. Toastmasters does not require a specific form. They just do suggest that you keep track of what goes on in your meetings, so you can say to a member, gee, you haven't been a Toastmaster for the last 12 meetings, or you've never been the timer. Let's get you to take on that role. And you can work with the other executive committee members to let them know that if you're keeping track. You do that in the executive club meetings. Now, the treasurer, we like to call that one the bookkeeper or the accountant. They keep the records and the financial records. If your club collects any dues for nominal purchases, such as contest trophies or things for your banner or things as giveaways for various membership contests, you can do that. They would manage the bank account. Usually there are two people that would have responsibility. One is the treasurer, one is the president. Just making sure there's 2 signatures on the bank account, if you have a bank account, and you should. And then you would be sending out the memorandum or invoice to submit the dues to the club. If you have club dues, then that can be done. That's done both in April and in October. You may also need to create a club budget, be able to prepare statements for the executive committee. They say quarterly. I have them done monthly in most of mine when I have the executive club meetings. And you need to stay current on everything that's going on because it's time to collect dues. It's time, there's an incentive to do it early. Some districts will say, instead of waiting till October 1st, if you pay by the beginning of September, we'll give you a ribbon that says you're a notable 9 members have signed up by the 9th of the month, or 20 members by the 20th. That gives a little incentive to do it earlier rather than later. Because if you don't pay your dues by the October 1st, you risk losing access to pathways and you risk the member not renewing. So if you can encourage that earlier on, that is very helpful. And the skills that you might learn if you've never done it before is basic bookkeeping, but most adults have their own checkbooks, so they're fairly familiar. But if you're not, here's your opportunity to learn. And if you're not accustomed to making budgets, like I'm going to need this amount of money for the year, and we need to increase our club dues if we collect them, then you have to keep track of that. And the club members all need to participate in the decision making. The executive committee can do some, but if you're going to make a major expenditure, the club members should be aware of it because it's their money, not yours, their money. And you need to be, of course, handling your critical thinking, know when to ask for help, when you could do it alone, and following Toastmasters procedures. Now, there's one more role, Sergeant at Arms, and that person is a little different when you're an online club. Those that were meeting in person might have club materials, and they need to be stored. That might be a club banner. It might be the gavel. It might be a timing device or something else, a lectern that we have. That person would need to come to the meeting early, set out the room, make sure that it's set up, and also schedule the meeting facilities. Some meet in restaurants, some in company meeting rooms, and sometimes they get changed. So you need to have the skills to negotiate as needed for a room or a facility if you're meeting in person. Online, all you need to make sure is that you have a valid Zoom account and show up early. And in many clubs, the Sergeant at Arms will actually start the meeting, give an introduction, and perhaps read the club mission, which can be worldwide. In many clubs in the US, we may start with the American Pledge because that is important to us. But online, your club decides what you do. Some that are affiliated with a religious organization may start with a prayer, and it fits that club's needs. But the mission is one thing that fits all of us. You would also be the person to welcome everybody. If you were in the room, you'd be shaking hands with them, giving them a smile and welcoming them. Online, every member should have that same hospitality. Be here, welcome the members, but especially the Sergeant at Arms, because you're going to make sure that the meeting starts on time, within reason, and be able to accommodate the welcoming that everybody should deserve. Now, the skills that are learned there, I mentioned already, but maintaining records, inventory control, should you need to do that, if you had forms, or even a shared drive. Some of my clubs have a Google shared drive, and we may share the forms there. And it's just to make sure that they're available to the club members, such as the counter role or the grammarian's role, or it might be a script for being the Toastmaster of the day or one of the other responsibilities in a meeting. You will also be very involved in the networking and relationship building, but all of our members do. Now I'm going to go to one last item. This club will be starting nominations, and there are 7 roles. with your permission, Raghu, I'd like to have you email this out to all of the members so that we could solicit nominations for each of these offices. And you may nominate anyone that is a paid member. There's no minimum requirement of membership. And then the second page, Secretary, Treasurer, Sergeant at Arms. I would like to see that shared, if possible, Raghu, with your membership so that they could share along the way with all of this information that I've shared. So I know it's a lot of information, but let them think about it. And my clubs that I've had experience in, we've actually allowed self-nominations. So it's not just I'll nominate him or her or them. It's I would like to nominate myself for this role because I would like to try that role if I've not done it before. And I'd like to open up the floor now for questions from any of the members about any of the roles. We have just a couple of minutes that are going on. If I could have some assistance with looking at the members, maybe if you could raise your hand on the reactions so that you'll come up to the front and I'd be able to see. Deanna, I see you have raised your hand. Do you have a question?
Deanna, you can type in the chat.
So she can
Anybody
type in the
else?
chat.
Anybody else who has a question? Grace, Swati, Ayushi, Bhupinder, Piyush, Hemant,
Okay, all right.
Bharat.
Your question?
Yes, thank you for such a lovely share. I am going to be a president for a club starting 31st July, and I'm sure this recording would really help me reach out to my members, and this is a good workshop. I noticed that most of the things, almost everything is covered. Maybe I missed something, and that is about the annual report for the club. You talk about budget, but there is no talk about the end audit or end annual report during the annual party in the end of the meeting, end of the term.
Okay, in the training, each district will do training for the officers. We call it the TLI, Toastmasters Leadership Institute, in the district that I am a party to, in District 84. And the training would be for the treasurer. There should in fact be an audit of the books. And it is my humble experience that that typically is not commonly done. If it should be done, Toastmasters tells us to do that. But in all fairness, many of our clubs live on a shoestring budget where we might have $100 or less. And the accountability factor is not as if we're collecting $1,000 a month from every member and we don't want you to abscond with the money. For the amount of money that's being dealt with, we believe in the integrity in our members, and we know who's available and who's not, who's reliable. But I agree that should be part of the pitch because it is one of the things they should participate in. Thank you. I'll make sure that that's added in.
I just want to add something. I just want to, so this is like more like a club culture. It depends upon club to club, how they want to do it. So there may not be an AGM, but what happens is before the officers leave, a new elected office just take up the oath in, they present their reports. That's what I've seen as a culture. But in some clubs, they do the audit, and then that is certified by another auditor that is submitted as a report to the district. It's more like a club culture, not even at district level. So it's up to the club. But in District 101, California, we do submit the tax report to IRS. That's one thing that we do here.
Okay, and that's not required outside of California.
No,
I suspect.
Not every state in United States.
Right.
But some states are doing it. Yeah.
But it's definitely a good practice to do. Are there any other questions? Deanna, you had something in the chat that we can address?
Anybody? Bhupinder, Ayushi, anybody else who has a question?
I want to continue something. Thank you for both of you for the clarification. In our club, we do an internal audit, so there is no fees. The incoming treasurer, outgoing treasurer, and president, this, as Raju said, it's a culture. And What I suggested was, you have such a wonderful presentation and role keeping. Just maybe add something about audit. Yes, we also call it TLI. We do have court trainings and district officers training. I was the area director and president last year also. And I appreciate the wonderful workshop you have prepared. Just a suggestion to add the, although again, as DTM Raju said, AGM, nobody wants to, we are all short of time, but it is a good leadership practice to get an AGM, do a report. We did a small report, how many DTMs, how many level 1s, how many level 2s, or how many joint meetings, how many workshops. So this is what we do in our club. And I just wanted to add on to such a valuable contribution you have made today. Thank you, DTM Susan, and I'm so impressed by this workshop today.
Thank you. If I may, in the clubs that I am currently president in, and that's 4 of them, I will do a presentation at a minimum once a month and sometimes every week, depending on what's going on in the district. If any member has earned an award, we give a copy of the certificate on a PowerPoint presentation. I also share the Distinguished Club program with them at least once a month. So my club members, not just the officers, but my club members are being made familiar with why we do what we do and why it's important, not just to Toastmasters International, but to ourselves to show that we are growing. And again, the leadership, I would say the first time I was president, I had no idea what all the other officer roles were. Boy, it was a lot easier, but I didn't do as good a job as I did once I had each one of the other roles. I have a greater respect for each and every one of the other roles because I have now filled them. And I do see that we are over time, but we have a couple more questions. Kalpana?
Hey, Susan. I want to know, like, you have played many roles and you are still playing the club roles. I want to know, like, what is that you will learn after your 6 months of tenure as a leader? What difference does it bring in you when you see it as a member or club leader?
So the first time one is brought into a role they've never done before, it can be a bit daunting because you don't know what you're getting yourself into, which is why I did this workshop, so that you at least have a hint of it. Oftentimes, someone comes to a meeting and they go, "You'd make a really good vice president of public relations." They have no idea what that means. And we put them in a role, they go to training, and then their job is over in 6 months. In some clubs, we have 1 year time frame for our officers. And I find that by the time you finally understand everything about the job, your time is almost over and it's time to transition to a new person. So have that executive club meeting with the current officers, as I did this evening earlier, with the new officers, and have them chat and have them bring that information over with words of wisdom. What did you gain? What did you do? I hope I've answered your question. There is always something to learn. I escaped being vice president of education for many years. I was too busy at work. It was crazy. I retired. I finally had time. Some clubs said, do it. In the middle of the year, someone dropped out. I joined. I did it so well, they had me do it for 3.5 years. And I took a break this last year from doing that. Somebody else stepped up, so I stepped into the presidency. I learned more by doing each job another time because they're different people. There's a different dynamic to the group. And I can humbly say, I learned more about myself and what I need to do to help my members raise them up, because it's not about me, it's about what I can do for them. Okay. Any other questions? I see Namitha, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, so suppose we don't have an active set of officers. In case, suppose it happens in a club, few officers are not at all active, they're not even attending the meetings for some reason. They got married or they got COVID, whatever the reason may be. In that case, how can a president effectively run the club without getting stressed out or overwhelmed by so many responsibilities that fall upon them because of the missing officer?
So the first responsibility is to know that if somebody is not coming, not attending, find out whether it is their intent to come back. If it is not their intent to come back, fill that role with someone else. Do another election. Sometimes an important role, you may have to do an appointment to bring them in. Say, I have to have a vice president of education. This past year, I had one young lady had a baby. I had one person had COVID and was out for weeks, and another person had moved to another state in different clubs. I made sure that if it wasn't me, someone else filled that role. Now I'm capable and I can do it, but in my 360 review with my members, I'm told you don't have to do it all. Delegate, let the others step up and do an extra role. You don't stress yourself out because it's a team effort and we're all in this together. And you strategize and you brainstorm and you figure out what you need to do. Does that answer? No stress. Yes, okay. I think we're going to need to wrap up because we are well over our time, but I really appreciate the questions because it says that you're listening. And if Raghu would be kind enough to share this presentation, we'll make sure that the nominations can come to me when we're finished with this presentation. I will type my email into the chat and you can send your nominations to me for any one or all of the 7 roles, including nominating yourself and others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DTM Susan. Just want to add to what Susan has told. Playing these executive roles is not just about taking responsibility of club, it's also your learning. I played multiple roles. For example, as a vice president of education, I've learned how to organize things, how to interact with people and run a meeting every week. So that made me rather a lot of procrastination is what I call myself, from a procrastinator to a person who can plan things and execute things well. And also as a VP membership, I was able to connect with guests. As an introvert, I always hesitated to talk to people unless they started talking. From introvert to a person who is ambivert, rather I would call myself, who is able to connect with people and then able to interact and also understand their needs and match with what Toastmaster has to offer. And then if they are interested, offering them as Toastmaster membership. And this also helped me to interact with people, whether it is at office or whether it is the way that I do my other kind of business. And as the other role, the VPPR or as sergeant at arms, other roles that I play often is very short period, but that also helped me to do things at better, whether it is breaking the ice or to doing planning, executing things better. This is another kind of learning. Because why? Why do I say that? Because in Toastmasters, it's a fail-safe environment. It doesn't matter whether you're failing here. Nobody's going to question you. Nobody's going to object you. So even that roles in as a club officer is going to help you to see the other dimension of learning. So I invite each and every one of you to come and help DTM Susan to complete the club elections smoothly. Please nominate yourself for these roles. Thank you. Over to you, Namitha.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster Raghu. It seems like the officers' roles need someone to be dauntless, to be really daring, and to be really active to know your club members and how to run a club. Now, we have a really nice, small, cute club here. We have wonderful people here. Few of them are shy to come on camera. I don't know why. If you can show your face on camera, it would be really good. Now, moving forward, we will be skipping the table topics today and we'll be going directly to the evaluation. Evaluation will be done by our own creative, one of the most pleasant and kind Toastmasters I have ever met, Toastmaster Kalpana. Over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Toastmaster Namitha. It has been great pleasure to evaluate Toastmaster Susan. I think you have got everything that is needed for any new member in the club to understand what the club roles are, and you have given the learnings of each of the role that are definitely helpful for members to understand, and you have motivated them enough to take up the role. So I'm just giving my 2 cents of understanding, and I'll try to do my best. So I would say, Susan, you have started very well, and you have excellent voice modulation that you have brought in whenever you are giving the roles, I could see. And you have given encouraging examples, especially I like the one when you have given for the VP education. I really like that particular example, and it definitely helps us to understand what will be the challenges that we face and how we are supposed to handle them. And coming to something where we recommendations of the speech, I felt that I know the topic itself is so huge that you have to rush, but the rate of speech can be little lower, wherein sometimes it was difficult for me to catch you, and the camera position can be little improved, wherein we can get to see your hand gestures. Sometimes the hands were getting off away from the frame, and thank you so much for sharing your examples, and that definitely helps us to understand and grow further into our roles and learn and grow as better leaders. And that's all for the today I have. That was excellent session and well presented with all the 7 roles, and I really look forward to listen to you more, Susan. Thank you. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Namitha, sorry to cut in. I think Diana has a question. She has been raising her hands. Just ask her if she has a question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Diana, we saw your hand raised. Can you just type it in chat because we are in lack of time? We have a time crunch. Just post it in chat, okay? Can you just lower your hand? You are highlighted in the meeting. Okay, thank you so much. Now, I would like to call upon our tag team to provide the reports. Timer, over to you.
Yeah, so today's prepared speech by Susan was for around 32 minutes and 55 seconds. And the evaluation was 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me call upon our grammarian of the day, Toastmaster Grace. Please provide your report.
Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster. So I wasn't able to take note of any improper grammatical use for the day, but for the word of the day, it was used 3 times. One by our keynote speaker, and then Namitha and also Diana in the chat used the word daunting or dauntless. Some of the words that I like today would be the word brainstorm, constructive feedback, succession planning, also words such as parliamentary procedures and shoestring budget. I also like this quotation, something that the keynote said, that I learn more about myself, and in this helped me to help my members as well. And also she said that you don't need to stress yourself up. We are all in this together. And also, I think one of the things that Raghu was saying during one of the question and answer was he turned from being introvert to ambivert. So those are the things that really struck me today. Back to you, Toastmaster. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now let me call upon Toastmaster Viveka to provide the counter report. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Namitha. Am I audible? Okay. So yeah, it was a great session. I would like to start with Namitha. Namitha, you need to control your usage of That's really you need to work upon. Similarly, I need to work upon it as well. Like this. Grace also needs to work upon her and usage of and should be a little bit in control, Grace. Susan, she's impeccable. She's just impeccable with her speech. Each time, to everybody and to myself, we must learn it from her. Be it a prepared speech and be it an impromptu, she's always on the point. Maybe it's experience, maybe it's a knowledge, or I guess, but I personally feel that's experience and more of learning. So we need to learn from her. Please listen to her when she speaks, because her speech, be it structured and non-structured, is always on the point, just perfect. So, and okay, so here it is. Raghu was very good today. Raghu, last time I remember I was on our counter. I did have a little bit of R's and were there, but today Raghu was also impeccable. Bharat used R twice. Piyush used 3 times. So yeah, that is what it is. Some people used so, I really don't pay a lot of attention to so's and buts, because sometimes people use it just for the heck. Yeah, thank you, people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, tag team, for your report. If you don't have anything else to discuss, can we conclude the meeting? Raghuji, we have
Sure.
4 minutes.
Thank you, Namitha. Thank you.
So I would like to call upon our guests, Toastmaster Bharat and Toastmaster Hemant, to provide their feedback of this meeting.
Thank you. I have been to meetings invited by Toastmaster Raghu, DTM Raghu, many times. Every time I find a lot of value. Last meeting we had for that interview or something about CV writing. And today we have in this lovely workshop, which is so important in this election time. All our clubs are going through it. And lovely, the calm voice and the way Susan has given us this, it builds trust. So this is what our learning is. Someone asked today, what makes her tick at 27 years to do it again? Because we keep getting feedback, we keep learning, we keep growing ourselves. And this does not stop at our club level. It goes to our personal lives, our personal businesses. And I'm so happy to be here today. Wonderful series of workshops done by you guys. And I would love to appreciate all of you and come again to your meeting and invite you to our clubs to have joint meetings to see how we can do and understand cultural differences and how we work on those. So thank you so much for having me here. It is a real pleasure, and hats off to you guys.